Are you ready? Are you ready to pod it up?
Let's go. Let's have fun.
Peatcast it. This is the Simply Youth Ministry Podcast with Doug Fields,
But we are an award-winning podcast. We gotta start promoting that.
Matt McGill,
Let's soak up that awesomeness. How great is this?
Wow.
Josh Griffin,
Just to throw it in there, not all of our shows are going to be great.
and Katie Edwards.
That's what the teens are saying.
Write in. We'll answer your email.
SYMpodcast@gmail.com.
How back?
Hey everybody!
We have mixologists there.
Welcome to Simply Youth Ministry Podcast number 147. We're quickly approaching 150.
That is correct.
On my new website blog that I'm doing, I have a little button for podcasts, and it says over 150 shows.
That's awesome. So
I
you got to
have
get there.
I have to either wait 3 weeks to launch
That's
it.
a little hopeful.
Yeah, we can
I
do
actually
it.
have a meeting tomorrow working on it.
But with the holidays coming, I mean,
I know,
next week we're not
next
going to do a
week.
show.
Why not do a Wednesday show right before Thanksgiving?
Because, okay.
Hey everybody, Doug Fields here, Matt McGill, the Queen, Katie, and Josh, the host, Griffin.
Where's the salute?
Nope, no salute today.
You pulled it back.
Got a new move. Got a new move.
You got a new move. It's a,
Catch on, guys.
it's a head dog.
That's
Yeah,
disappointing.
That is. My beard is still
disappointing.
Hey,
part of the
we
talking.
had to shut down some talk right beforehand because Katie came in and said, "Hey, you guys, I listened to 00," and I was like, "Don't say anything."
But you
don't.
can't tell me because I don't listen to the whole thing.
Well, but I said
Only
we
listen
got
to
to
the
talk
first
about it on the
part.
show.
Yeah.
Okay,
what'd you
but
think?
I haven't truly listened to the whole thing yet.
Well, you have till the end of the year.
Right, I do up to the first,
Yeah.
but I would just, it was funny, my first impression is, you know when a new TV show launches
Yeah.
and the pilot is shot like months
A
before
year.
the show is actually, and it just looks so, it was like a true pilot of a show because it looked so different. could not figure out where you guys were. Like I thought you were like in a skyscraper or
We were in the
something.
studio.
Like,
Yep.
but with the
Oh,
windows and
yeah.
everything, I
Did
was
you
like, where are
eventually
they?
figure it out?
No, I asked Josh. I was like, where were you guys?
Yeah.
But it just
scripted
had this,
was it?
like,
Was it
well, you had all
funny?
your note cards, which was so funny. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Show ideas.
I
that we
remember.
got
Yeah, you had
to
all the
feedback
show
on.
ideas and the note cards, and you were sassy. You were, like, sassing Doug and being sassy.
I have grown a lot over the years. People really
You
don't
were
realize
throwing
this.
in, like, sassy zingers. I mean, I was like, whoa. I'm like, Matt's a little sassy on the
Things have
first show.
changed. Matt's really
But it just looked so
puppy now.
different.
Whatever you
I'm
want,
so
Doug.
mild. I'm a mild-mannered reporter.
You're just so, yeah.
You are.
Ken.
You're mild is how I would describe you.
You couldn't just squeak out 5 more minutes.
Yeah. couldn't
No,
watch
I know.
it.
I had to walk away. I don't know why. Something shiny
had to
caught my
walk
eye.
away.
I don't know.
Matt, something caught my eye. Look.
Yeah.
anything.
What am I doing? I gotta get out of
Please,
here.
someone interrupt me.
Somebody stabbed
Just,
my
it's
eyes
just,
out.
and there was just the three of you, no girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
just
we
you
had a
guys.
First say
Natalie
female.
show.
When did she come
1 or
in?
2. It's
Oh, okay.
really early.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was just, I don't know, it was fun. It was cute. It was cute. It was just so different than what I think how it looks now. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and a little like you guys were maybe just feeling your way through, like
Yeah.
not sure what you wanted to do.
Still,
and
that's exactly how it is.
Real similar, except there's no note.
well,
card.
you have
Still-
rules now,
still
you know,
sassy.
that, you know, remember our
We have
audience.
rules
and-
now?
Yeah, there's some
I
rules.
keep forgetting
Well, for those on the live show,
Guidelines?
the people on the live show hear the rules, but those that
Yeah.
don't get the live show don't really experience the rules. And,
Oh,
and
that's
they're
true.
really not rules. But
They're
what
like
do I say,
things
Katie?
to live by,
What,
maybe.
what do I say?
No crosstalk. And remember our audience.
Let's remember our audience. Look
Yeah.
at,
Remember
look
the
at everybody
audience.
here.
Look at
On
everybody.
this side over here, facing, if you're looking to the wall to the right, that's our rewind. These are the people that have gone back to 00 and sent in a photo. Danette Maddie, a wonderful person, she fell on the ground, so we had to replace her. Not replace her.
Not in real
spot.
life.
And over here on the left-hand side are the people that are the original 00 listeners. So I think we just need more photos.
I agree.
So
Do you have a
agree.
number? You don't know how many there are true 00 people are out there?
Well, these
Just
are
the
the ones
guess.
that have, the last few
Yeah.
weeks who we've been talking about it have
It
sent.
can't be much higher than this.
Yeah, it feels like that's got to be about peaked out.
Yeah.
Because how many, was that 3 years ago?
I
can't remember.
Yeah, most of them are out of youth
150
ministry.
episodes.
It was. It's 3 years ago. We were talking
Because
about
you
it
were
at
like
a-
PDYM director or whatever is how
Right,
you introduced
right. Was Matt
yourself.
the high school?
No, you introduced yourself as a helper. You're like, I'm a helper.
I was at Saddleback, student ministries, like probably student ministries still at that point. So funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Has my life ever been different than that?
Isn't it fun though, the changes?
No,
I
it
mean,
was
In the
funny.
helper.
life
Yeah.
development and then Simply and Big Church and regional stuff, and
Yeah.
you've been through like
We've
3
just
things.
been through so many things through the years.
And there's
Were
more
you at
coming.
Mariners back then?
Yeah.
I think I was back at Saddleback already.
Back in
I've been back
Well,
at Saddleback 4
let's
years.
talk about other people than just us. If you
memory
have
lane.
questions that you would like to send into at simply sympodcast@gmail.com. That's sympodcast@gmail.com.
over.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 147. This
welcome
episode
back.
is brought to you by 99 Thoughts for All Small Group Leaders. Nadeem actually has to be in here today, and Josh and I give
Riley's
Nadeem-
buying a house today.
Chris is?
No,
Riley is.
Riley.
Yeah, Riley becomes a homeowner. For those of you who don't know, Riley is our graphic artist, who when Chris is our tech guy, when he's not here, Riley pitches in. So Nadeem really is third string.
Right.
Low
Exactly.
Third
Sorry.
string. When Nadeem's running the show, we're in trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wait, Riley's buying has good time to buy a house right now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it is.
Yeah.
'Cause Our
Yeah.
house is...
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe Nadeem, as a third stringer, will do so awesome. He'll
he'll
surpass
deliver.
Riley. That happens all the time. The second stringer gets kicked out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell her.
How are sales going for 99 Thoughts for All Small Group Leaders?
Fantastic, right? They're actually back in the warehouse now, which is good.
Back in the
Wow.
warehouse.
Yeah.
Is this
Sold
the
out,
third
huh?
printing?
We started our third printing already.
Unbelievable. Dude.
Wow, good job.
Wow.
Josh, it's
Wow.
a good book.
It's a good gift for your small group leaders.
Hey,
It's probably the forward that's selling all those
The
copies.
forward is truly.
Clearly.
Seriously.
yeah.
And the editor.
Yeah.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our corporate sellout moment.
We didn't already have one of those.
Beep, beep, bo, bo.
More than
Okay, go.
dogcrawl.com. Oh yeah, the more you know.
Let me,
Yeah.
read it with the passion that I feel in my heart.
Oh.
It's not too early to start stocking up on gifts for your student and volunteers in the ministry. Check out the gifts category on simplyyouthministry.com for suggested resources. Sale category. It's also worth checking out our sale category. We've discounted all sorts of materials, small group curriculum, sermons, books, training, and more. So take advantage of these items as you plan the second half of your year. And of course, happy Thanksgiving.
Of course.
Thank you.
I got
Andy Brisbane.
goosebumps from that
is
passion.
the corporate sellout moment. And bye. Keep our show on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep us
How's
on
your
there.
paycheck going from Simply Youth
Awesome.
Ministry? Yeah.
I love
Doubled
it.
this year,
I
right?
love it.
Well, it's actually half because she only makes half of our lunches afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Which, for those of
Yeah.
you that don't know, that is the payment for the podcast, is we actually get lunch afterwards.
That's a nice payment, actually.
And we had to
That's
wait till
speaking the
Brazel to move
language.
to Colorado to get that. So. Anyway, hey, we have a new photo on the wall, and I thought this was a little bit interesting with this new photo. This is Bernard, and he says, my last name is pronounced like success without the S and the S.
So Sanchez.
Sake?
Bernard Suck.
Excess?
Suck?
Maybe,
Suck?
maybe it's up.
Sucks.
Maybe
Sus?
other S.
Maybe it's
He's from
sus.
Germany.
Bernard.
Where we're having a hard time with it. He's a volunteer youth worker, 2 or 3 years. I don't remember when I started. I still like it. I want to learn more about youth ministry. Therefore, I'm reading Purpose Driven Youth Ministry. It encourages me very much, just like your podcast.
This is like
As a
suck.
rewinder, I've attached a picture of me. Bernard, you are our first European to
Oh,
make the
international.
wall. Yes,
And the first non-smiler.
He's smiling.
It's just got that.
It's a German
It's
smile.
a German smile, man.
Yeah.
Come on, if anybody should
Still.
know.
Duh.
Oh, man.
Because you like beer. This
And
is
Germans.
from Jeff Stewart. Jeff Stewart is, I really like Jeff. And where is he?
Where did
He's the
old
one
Jeff
that
go?
Katie made fun of last week.
No.
Thought he was creepy.
Oh, he's up there. I'm so sorry. That wasn't my
I
heart.
think you should be sorry. I made fun of him that he's sitting in front of his bookcase and we didn't see any of my books.
Right.
But he writes back in his defense. He said, I need to clear a few things up.
Oh,
They're all
shoot.
open on my desk. I'm pouring over them.
In the photo, PDYM is sitting on the shelf above my head without the outer jacket cover. I hate those things.
Oh, me too.
And I have 4 of Doug's books on my iPad.
Oh, the iPad.
Yeah, I've heard about those.
Yeah.
Fancy
It's really high tech.
things.
High tech.
Christmas, Simply Youth Ministry that's our payment right there.
Oh,
You don't have one, do you?
Please.
No.
I don't have one either. Katie, you don't have one?
no.
Nadine,
Lunches
take note.
and an iPad?
Take note of that.
Merry
Pass that on to
Christmas.
Andy. There's not a chance Andy's
Yeah, not a
watching the
chance,
show.
no.
Andy's in Colorado like this with one of those 12 calculators. And he goes,
Calculator, just money, just throwing money.
Just piles of gold coins.
Scrooge McCrae.
Gold
He
coins.
says my photo wall, thought to be creepy from Katie,
Oh,
is the
Katie, you're
Facebook
shoot.
profile
Judgmental.
picture of all of our students, and I use it to remember their names, pray for them, and remind myself who God has given me a passion to lead. 2 times
wow.
a week, I go through and check that I know their names. We all know what it means to a student to remember their names.
Wow.
Katie, would you like to
I know.
repent of your
I already have. I repented last week. I felt
Just
so
look at the
terrible.
camera and
Yeah,
apologize
just
to
really-
Jeff.
Jeff,
That's
I'm so sorry. Yes, I appreciate your ministry.
No, hey, you don't have to appreciate it.
No, I do not think you're creepy, Jeff Stewart.
No, I love it. I love it.
I think
What a
it's
great
great.
way to- what a great way
I think
to
it's
remember
great.
names.
Good bit.
And if you go back to last week, you'll know, Jeff, that I defended
Oh,
you.
my
Made
cheeks
fun
are
of you
red.
About not having my books, but defending you about the pictures.
It's a
when I
double
first,
win.
when you were in high school,
I remember.
I took pictures of, there's like 35 kids in the youth ministry. I took pictures of all of them, and I would take them on trips. Back then I was speaking with youth specialties, and I told Dick Long, I said, I got to be back Saturday night because I got this new youth group, and I got to be there on Sunday morning. And I'd fly back, and I would just go through those names and just work on names.
That's awesome.
Yeah, way back before
Super
Facebook.
cool.
35. I feel like you knew people's names back then.
Well, I could.
Flashcards.
I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last night I was sitting with my small group of 9th grade guys, and not only did they were loving it because people would come up, we're in the refinery, and people would come up and go, hey, Doug, Pastor Doug, I haven't seen you in a while, whatever. Like older people, kids, the whole
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And every time they'd leave, I'd go, who was that guy? And to 9th graders, they thought that was very
Funniest thing
funny.
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea who that person was.
That's fun.
All right, we got a bunch of questions and comments. Hey, Brian Naki, I love it now that they're pronouncing. Some of our regulars are
Yeah.
actually
Giving
pronouncing
us a
Phonetic,
guide.
yeah.
Yeah.
phonetic
That's like the
that way.
biggest gift to you
Hooked
ever.
on
It is.
It really
It
is.
is. Brian Naki, he
Christmas
said
time.
you read my email on October 23rd, episode 143. You put out there to help me in having a mentor. Thank you for doing this. One person contacted me and really helped me. Her name is Taryn Ramsey. She's a youth pastor in Winnipeg, Canada. What an awesome servant and the passion she has for you.
That's great.
She asked a lot of tough, deep, and insightful questions that showed me that I really need to prepare a lot more. The starting youth ministry, he was going to start a youth ministry. The start of the youth was supposed to be November 10th, and I'm sorry to say that it's a no-go. My pastor and leadership team came over to my house and prayed over the youth ministry. He thought that's why they were coming over, and instead they came over to say, we repent to you. They went on and said that they did not seek after God, and they jumped to start the ministry. It hurt, angered me really bad. They're not on board, so the youth ministry has stopped again. It's been a roller coaster. Also, due to some red flags in the family, I've left the church, and I want to say that I'm not going to give up. I'm going to read, study, listen to the podcast, keep talking with other youth pastors, and just soak in all that I can on how to care for teenagers. Taryn also sent me a book, Your First 2 Years in Youth Ministry, which I can't wait to dive into. I'm not sure what to say to Taryn, but she's been a great blessing and deserves the best.
That's
And I say that we bless Taryn.
That's amazing.
Nadine, will you make a note? Let's give Taryn the Live curriculum.
Oh,
That's
Junior
awesome.
high
Nice
and high
gift.
school. 6
Oh.
years.
Nice.
That's the great thing about not having Brazelton around. We could just
such
give
a great gift.
And then I can always say, I didn't, Brazel, Nadim said it would be okay. So let's give that to Taryn as a gift.
Super cool.
Because that's a,
That's
expensive
such a
gift,
good
isn't it?
gift. Merry
$500
Christmas
for the
and
high school
Thanksgiving.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Well, Brian,
Maybe she's
you
already
hang
got
in
it.
there. She's already got it.
If
Then
she's got
she
it.
can have 99 thoughts for small group leaders.
Oh, excellent.
Not quite as an expensive gift.
Not quite.
$7, $700. Yeah, whatever. It's right there.
Just as valuable.
Just as
Can't
valuable.
really run that curriculum if you don't have good small group leaders. Okay, Brian, you need to send us a photo in anyway because we need to have a wounded warrior wall.
Yeah, and even just a Hall of Fame for the
Taryn.
Yeah, Taryn.
Jumping in there. That's
That's
what our
incredible.
podcast team does.
That's
They help
awesome.
each other
Yeah.
in times of need.
Matt, tell me what's going on with
I
you
am
wearing your hood.
freezing right now. I can't believe you guys aren't cold.
I am.
I'm not cold.
even close to cold.
No.
I'm never ever cold in this
You
little
look like
room.
you're from the future a little bit with that shirt, though.
It's kind of
From the
Tron-esque.
future or
yeah, like
the
in
past.
2015 or whatever that
It's
shirt.
this.
Does that mean it's so out of date that
No,
No.
it's ahead. You're like no one's ever worn that before. It's from the future.
And
Like
it doesn't remind you of Flashdance?
oh yeah, I guess it does. I guess it's from the past.
Yeah. Speaking of Flash, this reminds me of Flash.
It reminds me of Assassin's Creed. It's a video game, Doug. Don't worry about this part.
Oh,
Hey,
that
Black
came
Ops.
out this week.
Black Ops, good job. They did. You look just like him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm seriously, I don't know, maybe
Yeah, my small group guys were talking about Black Ops, and thankfully I knew about it from one, a commercial, and two, you kind of making fun of me on Twitter.
Here's the
I
thing.
didn't make fun of you
It
on
is
Twitter.
one of the most violent games.
He did.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't suggest it for.
I would
youth
not suggest
ministry.
it
Young
for
teens.
junior hires for sure. And
Yeah.
parents need to make the call on high school. It's intense. Awesome, but intense.
I wouldn't suggest it for youth pastors, actually.
Well, there we go. Next question. I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree. Here we go.
Here is a question about from Carl Peterson. It says, "Thanks again for the encouragement, laughs, blah blah blah. I was hoping to get
You're
your
welcome.
wisdom and advice on how to handle a small problem in our group. I'm a full-time youth pastor by God's grace at a small country church. I've held the position for 18 months. Our youth group consists of 40 teenagers from 6th to 12th grade. Because we're a small town, there's not a lot to do. When teens graduate, they try to come to youth group. Before I was a youth pastor, it was held within the borders of graduation or 19, since some kids were dropouts. I carried that on and then have a couple of teens try to push it. Most of the time we let them enjoy the night, and then sometime later we grab them and just let them know with love and grace that they've moved past this stage. We explain that we still love them, but we'd like them to connect to another ministry."
Yeah.
Great.
Sounds great so far. Perfect.
A teen girl who has gone from real fire on God to running from God has been bringing a 21-year-old friend to youth group. She's been coming for about a month without my knowledge of her age, probably because they both know my stance. The fear is this will make the teen freak out and fully understand and forsake God. I want to enforce our policy, but I don't know how to tell her in a way that will bring the best results. Any ideas?
It's a tough question.
Yeah, that is a tough question.
Because you would take responsibility for that in your heart and go, if I enforce this rule that was made with good intentions on this kid who's genuinely seeking God, then
Yeah.
I'm responsible for her not coming to Jesus and not
Yeah.
owning her faith.
Yeah.
I feel that's legit.
I mean,
Well, it's legit if you don't rely on the sovereignty of God. But
No, I agree.
yeah, I mean, I
agree,
think
yes.
I think this is a great. I mean, it's a great question because it's a hard because there's no black and white one way or the other necessarily, not for everybody. And I think that this is a situation where you do consider a little bit of leniency in the plan, you have a rule for a good reason, and the good reason is you don't want it to be disruptive and you don't want the olders preying on the youngers. And so if they're there and it's not a disruption and it's not, totally obvious that they shouldn't be there, that they're not a fit, then I'd say you let it slide for a little bit and see what happens. Now, of course, there's tons of problems. I mean, if you have a rule, you got to treat everybody fair and all that stuff. And I think you got to treat everybody fair. I don't know if you necessarily need to treat everybody equal. I don't think that doesn't really work in life. But you have other kids that come and show up. I think that say, hey, they're here, I want to be here. Well, then you could tell them why they're there. Hey, are you bringing a non-Christian? Are you on the edge of your faith? You're about to drop off? Or it's not too hard to explain why you're doing what you're doing. But
which opens,
Yeah.
A lot of
you go
doors.
that direction, and then all of a sudden you got kids, you're making exceptions. One of the red flags to me is he's got 6th through 12th graders.
Yes,
So now
yeah.
you've got a 6th grade, 11-year-old?
With a 21-year-old.
With a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
But you have 40 teenagers, it may be time to split the
Split them
ministry
up
into
anyhow.
junior high and high school. And maybe this girl who was real on fire with God, maybe she needs a little, what I was thinking when I first read it is, what if you offer to do a little discipleship with her? And maybe meet with both of them. Maybe start a
Yep.
college age type Bible study in your office that's 45 minutes a week or an hour a week, and eventually get this gal who was on fire back to faith.
Yeah.
And if you have a junior high ministry in 6 months, you've split them or start next year, then she becomes one of your leaders, and she's not going to be looking to go back to that.
You can't make exceptions all the time. When you have a rule, you got to stick to the rules most of the time, especially when it's stuff with safety or perception. We had camps where kids smoke, you go home, and then we had the daughter of one of our awesome leaders, and huge awesome leader in the church, and huge awesome leader in our ministry, and great friend. I
Yeah.
mean, it was the
That was
triple
the
Lundy.
trifecta right there.
It
And the daughter was smoking?
And the daughter was
Oh,
caught smoking
God.
after
Holy
she was
smokes,
told
how have I not
time and
heard
time and
this?
time
This
again.
is so
It
we're on
was-
house. We're on houseboats. That's the
Right.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
this
goodness.
guy's on our volunteer staff. Him and his wife are unbelievable.
They are
leaders in our
unbelievable.
church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I had to send her home.
Oh,
See, and I
good.
I
and
had
you
a,
did?
Oh yeah, we had to because it's one of those things. I mean, it was a different situation. I mean, this wasn't a faith issue. Like, are they on the edge of their faith or not, or whatever? I mean, it was just one of those things that, well, then everybody will come and smoke, and then that'll totally take away from the trip. I mean, I had a deal in Mexico.
But we also, I mean, just to be fair, we also said, hey, if you are addicted to nicotine, and
Right.
this is one of those things where you don't feel like you can go a week without it, then see us. And we'll
talk to your
we'll
parents.
talk-
We'll
we'll
figure
get you
something.
some
Have a little
gum.
smokers
No,
circle.
we'll do a smoker, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to make that the stumbling block. But this was just defiant, like, in your face.
I'll show them, yeah. But we had a kid that was a total visitor to the church, a total, maybe it was a non-Christian, maybe not. I mean, it obviously wasn't a regular kid, but showed up and ended up buying some alcohol. It was different than the real bad one.
Yeah.
But it was on the bubble, and I had a couple leaders say, "Man, how can you send this kid home? What are you going to do? And this is what if he walks away from the church?" And you hate to be that one guy that has a rule that is so solid, but that sends a kid running from the church.
Right.
But you got the safety of the whole camp. I mean, and it's
There's some great principles, though, behind all this.
But the
Yeah.
bigger picture for it also
Yeah.
became, in the longevity of our ministry, you only deal with that a couple times because then word gets out like, oh no, they're serious. When you sign that covenant,
Yeah.
they're serious.
Yeah.
They
Sure.
3 years ago, my older brother told me about,
Yeah.
whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
whatever it is, and they're,
And I've had kids, a couple of them, that we've had these huge run-ins, come back and thank me years later, saying, "Hey, thanks for the way you handled that." I think discernment is needed in every situation. Like, I think in something like this, we can't see the whole picture, the whole program, and if it's a crowd type event and they're on the edge and they're in the back of the room and they're just listening, I mean, I would be inclined to say, let it go a couple weeks and see if
Yeah.
there's an extra deal you could do in your office or start a new thing. I think that if it's high interaction, if they're really involved and everyone's mixing and mingling and talking, then it's a little bit more difficult because the exposure to having somebody
Sure.
who's not supposed to be there is high. But
well, and that's our deal with the podcast anyway. I mean, we realize we don't know the context
Yeah.
of everything. Sometimes we're throwing out Band-Aids, but principles of discernment, gathering the wisdom of others, etc. Do you need to turn off your phone? Are we affecting the noise?
nope, it doesn't affect the brain.
It doesn't? It just did for the first 130
Nope,
episodes.
Chris has said multiple times that it was his phone over there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Not
I
really
like
nice
to
being
listen
nice.
to Chris when he says
Yeah,
things.
that's
Yeah.
the difference between you and me. This is John
Who's Chris?
Hayes, like the underwear. Haynes.
Haynes.
Haynes, like the underwear. Pendleton, Indiana. Pendleton First United Methodist Church. I'm a new youth director at a small church. Our adult leadership consists of myself and the other volunteer. Which those are fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you and one other volunteer, that's a fun starting point. I mean,
Yes.
those are,
Awesome.
It's nice to at least have one volunteer.
yeah, but it's nice to be on the ground. I think of the Vinos.
Yes.
When I started Saddleback, I brought on Greg and Lyndon. We had some volunteers that were with us.
But not a ton. They were kind of
knuckleheads. I had to
the.
get rid of a few
yeah.
of them, but anyway,
We were thankful.
we really need to grow our adult volunteer pool. But the church historically has a difficult time recruiting people to help in different ministries. What would you recommend doing to recruit adults to help with our Wednesday night youth group, Sunday school, and small group? So this is a general question. We've talked about it a bunch on the
I know.
147 episodes. Let's point people to the first 2 years, purpose-driven youth ministry, for training, recruiting type stuff. But let's just go around and say, if you had one, you're going to give this person one answer. You got a 15-second phone call with them, Josh. What are you doing?
I would clear my schedule and make more time.
I like that right there.
I would just
That's a
say, I would start with knowing what you're recruiting them to. Don't worry about recruiting yet. Make sure you know what you're going to have them do when you get them.
Expectations. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
That's all.
So let's say that's taken care of. They already know that.
Oh, that's all I had. The whole time you were thinking, I was like, well, that's
I
where I
said
start.
We'll
just
come back to
one,
you.
Okay,
one
great.
thing.
Okay, Matt.
So,
Oh, wow.
I'd see if I can get it. I mean, I'm thinking that this. I don't know the size of the church, so I don't know how many other ministries that are going on. But if there are other natural groups, like the ladies are meeting, or the dudes are doing this, or the motorcyclists, or whatever, I would try and.
That's very popular.
The motorcyclists.
I don't even
Looking
think.
ladies,
I don't even
what's
think.
next? The
It's
quilting
really good.
club.
But like affinity groups.
Yeah. I
type
would go to where
things.
there's already community and there's already
Mature
a
believers
leader
who can-
there
Right.
who's
Choir.
Yeah.
who's connected to people,
church.
and I'd talk to that person and say, hey, what can we do to try and get some of your people serving and involved and maximize that relationship?
I think you have to be careful sometimes with the affinity type stuff and make sure that you're going to where it's community stuff and not ministry stuff already exists. Like,
Yeah.
if it is like women's Bible study, that's a great place to go. But if you're going to, the children's ministry potluck for leaders, like not to go
Yeah.
there to try
Yeah.
to, lasso leaders, or places where ministry is already, the choir would be an example of that, maybe of,
Yeah.
but I think parents too. I mean, I think sometimes we shy away from, I think I would do what you said about going to see who else is
Yeah.
in the church, but I think, as you meet students and you meet their parents, just, the people that kind of earmark who you've had great conversations with and great connections, and maybe take them out to coffee
Yeah.
and talk with them a little bit. And, a great couple can, do
Yeah.
a ton in your ministry, great. So I'm a fan of the relational relational invitation of just meeting people and instead of the blanket, like, hey, we need people, or, that kind of thing. Definitely conversations. Clear my schedule. I would be walking the campus looking to have conversations or things like that. I don't know.
Awesome. That's good. I was going to say the opposite. Cast the net really wide. Ask for a moment for a video, or get an insert in the bulletin, or a blurb in the program, or whatever, and
Yep.
see what you can turn up. Now I know that isn't the best, and you get the
Yeah, it's
whatever.
not the best, actually.
But
I'm just kidding.
I know, I totally get that.
Wow.
But I would say, why
I'm
not
just
do
kidding.
all those things? Go
Totally.
to college ministry.
Totally.
Have personal conversations. Cast the net wide.
Right.
The greatest success that I've had recruiting volunteers, though, is definitely one-on-one conversations. I look at someone and I go, that person would make a great... Tuesday night, I met this mom who came to visit our praise and worship night that we were doing. And she was like, I've never been to high school ministry before. This is unbelievable. I love this. And the kids were all... She's like, it really has stirred my heart to maybe
Yeah.
serving here someday. That lady is
Yeah.
on my radar now.
Right.
Yeah.
And guaranteed in the next 10 days, she's going to get a contact from me and potentially a conversation about
Yeah.
where she could fit.
Sure.
And I have a spot exactly where I'd put her, too.
You need to always be looking. Put as many hooks as
Sure.
you can in the water.
You're right. It's a ton of
if
hooks.
the senior pastor is going to have everybody asking him for volunteers, and so that's tough. I mean, but you definitely want to be on that radar.
But if you get
But-
a chance to teach on a Sunday night or da-da-da,
Yeah.
you have a little plug, even in your intro of who you are,
Yeah.
to throw out a little bit of a, this is a vision, here's what God's doing, if you want to be
Totally.
a part of it. Asking the senior pastor is huge. I mean, I remember when Doug went back, he would give us a little plug from
I
stage.
know, I
It
miss
was
you.
huge. Right on your response card and write
Yeah.
you HSM or what. That was big.
Yeah, it was great.
So
Well,
why not
anytime
try
you
that?
can get in front of people. is a
Sure.
win.
Yeah.
So for me, when I, we were
Membership
doing this
class.
membership class every month that Rick Warren was teaching
great.
every month, and I said, and I knew he was tired after the services to go back on the night, and I said, hey, and he only went back for, it was like a 4-hour class, and he went back and did like an hour, and I said to him, hey, could I do one? I know you're tired. Why don't I do your hour? And he looked at me like he wanted to kiss me. He was so excited that somebody would take his hour, and I took it. And I turned that, brand new membership
awesome.
class. It
Totally.
just became an infomercial for youth ministry.
1 hour of
But
sign
I
up
would
now.
also say to Carl or John Haynes,
Or Carl,
Carl was
too,
the
if
last person, but John, is that you come up with a story, a success story with something happened
like
with a
that.
teenager. A teenager came to Christ. Somebody read through the Bible and led their friend to the Lord. Whatever it is, there's some success story that you share with the pastor. And I think youth workers should always be saying, Pastor, anytime you can include stories of teenagers, kids win. One of the reasons kids leave the church is they don't feel any connection from the pulpit. So using examples from high school, and I got this example from, the more you can get kids'
Right.
stories in front of the pastor, and the pastor can use those, I think you elevate youth ministry, if you can tell that story or interview the kid on stage or anything and then be in front of those people and say, right now it's just me and Joe. If any of you feel led by God's Spirit that you'd even be interested in having coffee and talking about what it would look like. You don't have to sign any deals. I'm not going to lasso you in. But if you just think, I might be interested, you kind of sell it that way. The other thing between John and this one volunteer, there is an attraction to community. If these two have a good relationship, people want to be a part of good relationships. I mean, Katie, one of the things you guys have done masterfully in junior high is you have created such good community with your volunteers that they don't want to go up with kids when they graduate because they don't want to leave that community.
I've
It
sent
is
you
awesome,
some good
though.
ones.
But you
No,
think
it's
about
true.
it, you really got to feel called to go up with those kids because there is that tight-knit community.
Absolutely.
On Monday, Josh and Matt and Jason Pogue, youth minister and junior high, one of Katie's junior high leaders, those three guys helped me move my mom into an assisted living deal. And I had another buddy, a guy that I ride mountain bikes with, lives in my neighborhood, a good friend of mine, not a youth worker. He joined us. And he had so much fun with Matt and Josh and me and Pogue. When I wrote these guys to say thank you, he wrote back and he said, when I grow up, you guys you have the funnest friends. When I grow up, what do you say, Josh?
I
Read it?
didn't see it. No.
Oh, I thought he replied to all.
He did. Josh doesn't read his email. He was too busy
that's
clearing
awesome.
his schedule.
What did he say? Do you remember?
Yeah.
What did
He
say?
said, when I grow up, I want to be a youth worker.
Yeah.
That's
But I thought that was just in reference to having so much extra free time to do whatever you want.
on a Monday.
No, I think it was the fact that he said, you guys have such
We did
great
have a
friends.
good
it's
time.
fun."
That's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
He will make a great youth worker in 2 years when he's free. Stealing him from children's
It's
ministry.
good. It's good to plant that seed. This is from John Hobner. Hey guys, I'm
Or
21
Haynes.
years. Hubner.
Haynes, whatever.
I'm 21 years old,
Or Carl.
recently married,
Or sucks.
and currently part-time youth pastor at Faith Christian Center in northern Kentucky. I know God has called me to be a youth pastor. I love every minute of what I do. My question to you is, how necessary is it for a youth pastor to have a degree in youth ministry?
Ooh.
I've taken one semester of Bible college, but couldn't afford to stay in any longer. And now with a family, I'm not sure that I can make getting a degree a priority anytime soon. Right now, I'm torn between going severely into debt, getting a youth ministry degree, or going to a cheaper public college and getting a degree for a better second job. My wife, Michelle, is in her junior year of college and is going to be a teacher and plans on staying home with the future kids. None expected yet. So I'll keep a decent paying job to support them in years to come. Your thoughts? Been watching since episode 131, and there's no way I'm going back to watch all the
Honorary rewind right
Oh,
there.
that's
No
funny.
offense.
I'm deeply offended.
Yeah, 15, 16 episodes in, though. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, he spelled offense wrong, but and didn't capitalize Bible. But other than that,
Oh,
he is
dear.
And we lost another guy.
Yeah.
We're going to have to start another podcast to get the ones that fall through the cracks.
That's right.
Unless we
It'll
believe
be
the
this
sovereignty of
kinder,
God.
gentler podcast.
No, it'll be the kind of podcast that spells like you do.
That's right. I'm a bad speller.
All right. How
so
do we
what
help
do you
him?
think? What do you think, Josh? Do you need
I'd
Bible
clear my
degree?
schedule to give him more. No. This is what I would say. I have kind of a mixed answer for this because I went to Bible college myself, but I have a business management degree. So I don't think it's absolutely required. Some of the very best youth workers I know don't have degrees and are great people and whatever. But some of the most influential youth workers in my life have Bible degrees, seminary education. Some of the people that I look up to most, not just authors and whatever, although they are influential, have a pretty strong formal education. So I would say, while I don't think it is absolutely essential or required, there is a pattern of
So if you just want to love your kids, you're okay. But if you want to have a mogulship,
well, I'm just saying.
Well, I'm confused. He says he would go do something else if he didn't. Like
Yeah.
Second
needs
job.
to
like
get a
go
job.
do a different job.
Yeah, the fear is going into debt, of going, first is, do you need a youth ministry degree in college? And my response is no. I would say it'd be great if you took Christian education classes. If you want to go into youth
Absolutely.
ministry, you're going to take theology, religion,
Absolutely.
Bible. Any type of
And
Bible
you can
class
get-
would be great.
You get non-degree education like conferences and workshops and trainings and all that as well.
Yeah, I always encourage people to get your degree. I mean, you don't have kids yet, and once you start putting it off, it just gets
Right.
more difficult
Right.
and more difficult. And then kids come in, and it's just so difficult. You don't have kids yet.
I know, still young, 21.
Yeah,
Feels like good
scale
timing to
down,
finish.
Again, this is a Band-Aid. I'd scale down your living expenses and go to a community college, at least for your first couple years.
yeah.
And get all your GE out of the way, and then you can get some. There's so much scholarship out there right now.
Yeah.
There are some.
And being
Bible
married with
colleges-
wife in school, I would think maybe you would be able to get something too, scholarship,
Yeah,
grant money,
absolutely.
something.
Absolutely, but yeah, I'd go after.
Yeah.
I'd go after your degree. That's just
A youth ministry degree or
no. I just said I.
Just
I
your
don't think it
degree in
matters.
general.
Now, I think if you wanted to get a youth ministry degree, there are great youth ministry
Absolutely.
programs out there.
Yeah.
As I will be teaching at Azusa Pacific College University, APU.
Really?
The next few minutes of the podcast brought to you by Azusa Pacific.
The next
great
corporate
cause.
sellout moment
great
is brought to you
cause.
I'm just.
You're
I'm
teaching
son
a youth
who does
ministry
that.
Yeah, I'm
course?
going to teach youth ministry.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Just not very many. I'm not a full-time load. Just
Yeah. Well, I'm doing a lot of pastoral references for Azusa Pacific this year.
Me too.
I probably, yeah.
it's
Very
good.
popular school. Okay, commercial over. Next.
I went there.
You did?
Yeah.
Huh.
I loved it.
Interesting. So if you want to turn out like Matt, go to Azusa.
Seriously.
It's a good school. My son's going there.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, they're playing Montana in the playoffs.
That's awesome.
I got to show you this photo. It's a photo. He leaves tomorrow. It's all snowing, and it says,
Oh, the state of Montana.
"Bring it on!"
Right.
Yeah, bring it on, APU. This is home field advantage, and it shows the stadium
funny.
filled with snow.
That's
Oh
awesome.
gosh.
Yeah,
Are you going to go see it?
no,
Oh.
no,
That's
I can't. I'm
funny.
speaking in Seattle.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's too bad.
he's
Yeah.
redshirt. I mean, he's going. He's the emergency quarterback, but I don't think. I mean,
Yeah.
they'd have to. The guy would have to go down.
Well, and in the
Yeah,
snow.
maybe frostbite.
I know.
Throw the ball. Cody, get in there.
John Woods got a lot of
finger
Johns
broke
today
off.
from Wurtland COG. I don't know what COG is.
Assemblies of God.
COG.
Christ of God. Christians.
Cog.
Probably
over
that.
Goodness. Godliness. I don't know.
You mentioned in a
Church-
podcast episode in the 60s you were rewriting
Church of
PDYM. I've seen old links in Simply's website about having people help rewrite. Any update on when the book will be done? Do you still need help? Yes.
That's nice.
It's almost done.
It
It's
is. You were on
almost done.
14 like a month ago.
No,
Where are
I've
you
got
now?
3 chapters left.
So you're on 15. Good.
No, I'm on
17.
17, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so excited when I thought there was 22 chapters. So I'm like, oh, it's going to take. And I've been rewriting this sucker for years now.
A decade. The whole decade.
But I would love any ideas. SYM.
Second printing.
Yeah. SYMpodcast@gmail.com. Any thoughts you have? Any ideas? What works?
Yeah, are you-
Stories?
are you gonna
We
send
put
out-
a lot of sidebars in?
a manuscript to a few people? Like,
I don't know. I'm not even that close yet.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
That's going to be
My
good,
goal
though.
was the
Can't
end
wait.
of November. But
I'd like to pick the font for the next edition.
hey, you know
Taco
what?
salad.
The cover font.
The great thing is, it's been out so long.
Taco
That's all
salad's
coming
back
back.
in.
It's all-
Taco salad's
Taco
totally
salad,
cutting
arguably-
edge now.
That font never went out.
In my opinion, it didn't. It was great.
This is, speaking of PDYM, this is one of our PDYM mentors, Ken Leslie.
We still have PDYM mentors?
Sure, we don't do anything with them, but they do. My question primarily relates to retreats, trips, and events for students. Many of the events I attend charge full price for adult volunteers.
I know, it's a crime.
My view is that the church should budget for this cost, and no volunteer should be out money for an event he or she attends. After all, they are taking time off work away from their families and oftentimes serving above and beyond what many other volunteers do at the church. However, I'm constantly pressured by my senior pastor to make them pay for their way. I've debated the issue with him many times, stating that charging adults will only make them think twice before serving and eventually burn them out after 2 years of service or so. My only solution is to charge the students more to pay for the adults, but that's a catch-22 because if I charge too much, then the students don't go, the adults are unnecessary. On trips that are mostly for fun, like a day at an amusement park, I would have the adults pay, but this is a weekend or a week of service I'm hoping
Yeah.
for them to be at. Also, the frustrating thing is that I know this means I'll never be able to do anything for my adults like taking them to a conference or such, like the Simply Youth Ministry Conference, March 4 through 7. So corporate.
Wow.
2011.
Even though it's a great.
This
It's
is
a
sellout
slippery
show,
slope.
right?
Yeah.
We're just
Once you
open
fall
the
down
door.
that slope,
We're
here's
just
you.
Here's the deal.
really.
Here's the deal. We got to decide if we're going to keep doing the podcast. We got to mention
We got to
stuff.
make some money.
Coming from
Corporate.
Nadim's boss, that there's a lot of gigawatts cost to this.
I'm sure.
Apparently.
I'm
I don't
sure
even know
it
what a
is.
gigawatt is.
I know. I didn't even know.
Bandwidth, computer. I don't know.
Wow.
We just mentioned we're part of a team. We're part of a
Yeah.
bigger organization.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
sells
Conglomerate, actually.
Is there any good reason to make the adults pay for their way? I do not think I'm ever going to change my pastor's mind, so maybe you can help me to see where he is coming from.
Interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, Ken, as a volunteer small group leader, I got something from Josh asking me to go on a retreat in January that's $169. And I've got 2 things now from different things. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I'm supposed to pay or not, because it wasn't
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to pay?
You are. All the other volunteers are covered. So just you. Just make a simple donation.
Well, I actually thought,
No,
I
it's
go,
great.
okay, so Kathy and I are both volunteers. We both have small groups. That's $330 away for the weekend.
And potentially vacation time on Friday if we left early. Da 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 da. Right.
Yeah.
Luxury accommodations, of course.
Luxury.
Absolutely.
Mile High Camp. It's gonna be so fun. Yeah. Well, we have a. First of all, the budget is no. Don't. First of all, the budget is not
I'm just
necessarily something
smiling.
that everyone would be able to have.
Yeah.
And we certainly don't even have the budget to do something like that
Yeah.
either. So, budgeting some or carving out money for volunteers, subsidizing, those are all good solutions. But for an example, we just did a life groups weekend getaway, and we built the cost of the retreat that covers the volunteers. Camp is the same way. If you come to summer camp, we're going to find a way for the church to pay for those fees. Sometimes we will even negotiate with the camp and say, can you just roll the cost per kid so that we get free volunteers, so that we really aren't paying anything for the volunteers.
Reduce costs.
Yeah, so we usually roll the cost into the students, and if possible, subsidize a little bit. We just don't have the budget to do that.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of our beliefs that anything that you want to go to, we're going to find a way for you to go. So the answer to your question is no, you don't have to pay for you and Kathy to go.
Good.
But your kids, the kids that are coming, the 7 students, they each pay $169 or whatever it is, then that is going to subsidize you. We're paying for you to go, absolutely.
Yeah.
But 7 kids divided by whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think, your philosophy and Ken's philosophy would line up, as with
Yeah.
mine. I think even on amusement parks,
Yeah.
whenever I could, I'd pay for volunteers.
Well, and
I
you
want
can-
volunteers to feel
Yeah.
like what a privilege it is. Now, if there are some things where you've been in the ministry for a little bit longer and you have a larger pool of volunteers and there's too high of a cost to it,
Right.
and you only need 4, then you
Right.
but you let them know, hey, we'd love to have you all go on this.
Sure.
We only need 4, and this is a pay your own deal. So
Totally.
no big deal if you can't make it. But you want volunteers to feel honored
Yeah.
that they're a part of it, not
Yeah.
like they're always pulling out their money.
But an amusement park too, if you talk to the people and say, hey, for every 10 kids, can we get a leader at group rates, but you charge them full price? And there's ways to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
And there's other times I would agree that an amusement park day is a great example of, no, you got to pay for this one. It's okay.
Or half.
$40.
Or half,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as long as you communicate clearly and with enough time for people to plan, then,
Yeah.
I think every once in a while, if there's a cost attached, I think it's okay. I think for the big stuff, a week-long trip, I mean, that to me of giving up, someone taking vacation time to go on a trip to serve students, and maybe it's
Yeah.
just painting a little bit more of that picture for your senior pastor of like, here's Gary, he takes a week off, he gets 2 weeks vacation a year, and one of those he goes to junior high camp. takes the time off away from his family. That's what I'm working with here, not just,
And they're serving.
They're serving and
all
they're
year long. This isn't
totally.
like the
It's
only
not a
time of the
one-time
year they're
deal.
serving.
Totally. So I think painting a little bit more of a picture of just the stories of stories are so powerful, like you said before. So painting the story of a great volunteer who, here's why we want to pay for stuff and what that means, and I think that's good. But I think cost attached every once in a while is okay. We have a few things in the year where there's a small cost, but hopefully our volunteers feel like they're being appreciated year round, so that, hey, this is one of those times where it's $25 for me to do this, and my students are all going, and it's great, and I love it.
It's going to be awesome. I'm going to go.
Yeah, so I think that's okay every once in a while, for sure.
I mean the biggest, the business degree side is you charge your parents or your adults to come. It's going to be really hard to get them. So that's there. We've already talked about that. I think that to look at it from another angle, the reason why the church, we're here, the people on staff at the church, get people serving. And so anything you can do to get people to serve, any barrier you can get rid of, you should. Now, you can go too far, of course, but if you were going to go to another community, and do service projects, you wouldn't make everybody, maybe you would, buy all the hammers and the wood and the paint and all that stuff. I mean, the church would, most of the time, when it comes to service project type stuff, the church budget pays for that, and the people show up and whatever. And so, and again, I'm speaking in generalities, and I know that even some events at Saddleback to do building stuff, you did come and bring $15 or $20 and help covered some of the costs to serve. So that's not a perfect thing, but I think that, or a perfect example that fits every situation. But I think that the idea is that you want to get your people serving, and serving in high school ministry is going to events, is paying for a hotel or tents or whatever. And if you can figure out a way to make the numbers work and lower the barrier to get people to serve, then you do whatever you can to get people to serve.
Even get them. I mean, Ken, I would say even if you could do it half price to start there. You're talking to, maybe there's a sugar daddy in your church and you're saying, boy, if you could ever help out, I'd love to have this. I mean, if you can do this, this is some churches you can't do it. You set aside a budget that this is my budget where It doesn't go back to the church every year. It's a rolling budget. Depends on what kind of relationship you have with your accountant person. But when our buddy Dan was there, I set up accounts that I wanted this to roll into the next year, and I would have people give to that account, and I would use it kind of as
you needed.
Scholarship fund here and there. And
I think, too, being intentional with the events that you choose. If you know this is a hot button with your senior pastor, maybe trying to balance out events that cost a ton with events that maybe are super inexpensive, barbecues, things like that can attract, students and have great community happening, but it's really, really cheap to do, too, which we've had to do a lot of the last year. It's really had to balance out what we're doing.
Leaders you let to go to camp.
I didn't want to bring it up, but
turned upside down.
Well, that's why I started laughing at the beginning of your answer, that you were the one taking the lead on this when you took such a
I'll take the lead on it
killing.
because I know the right way. I'm not saying we did it that way this year. I know the right way to do it. Don't follow us this year. God, gone.
Well, it's and
camp
Ken, what would
speakers.
be interesting is we really don't know the pastor's
Of course.
point of view on this.
course.
I mean, maybe he has some deep theological reason.
Yeah, that if you're going to serve, you should sacrifice a little bit to serve. Or maybe there's something there.
Yeah, and if you
but-
can't
I'd
win.
say it's a good reason, but
Yeah.
For sure.
Church
all right,
culture.
we've got we got a lot more, but I want to end on two. One, we got to end on the one that's titled what?
Weed.
Weed. Got to end on that one. Here's one that says need a little. I just crossed out the person's name because as I read, I thought they probably don't want their name read. My name is Greg. I'm a youth pastor in Pennsylvania. I spoke to Doug at the Speaking to Teenagers Conference in Pittsburgh last month. I've been at my church for 3 years, and the longer I'm there, the less I feel I can support the vision and/or methods of the church and the senior pastor. When I arrived, the youth group was about 5 teens who grew up in the church. They've all, but one graduated out. Now the youth group has grown to 20, 25 students who have never before stepped foot into a church. I've seen several students come to a saving knowledge of Jesus and have great potential in others inching closer to God. However, with the success of the youth group, my wife and I both feel attacked, judged, and unappreciated by the church. I feel like they don't want the hoodlums, quote unquote, that are now part of the youth group to be there, and because of this, I feel like I'm constantly protecting my students from the church, which is awful. I'm interviewing at other churches because I feel if I stay where I am, the church will burn me out or I'll stop doing ministry. However, I don't know how to set this ministry up for success if I do leave. I have one great couple volunteering and an amazing college leader who came from my youth group. I feel I am leaving them to the wolves to be eaten, but I don't know what to do. Any insight would be helpful.
Ugh.
Attacked, judged,
That one breaks
and
my heart.
unappreciated. Well,
That's the worst.
you know,
Those things right
Normal
there.
day.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Welcome to
the
youth
world of
ministry,
youth
dude.
ministry.
I'm sorry.
No,
That
it's
is it,
I
man.
hate it. I hate it that people feel that way in the church, and I hate that the church does that
Does that
to
to
youth
people.
workers.
Yeah.
Protecting your kids from the church. That's a painful sentence.
I think depending on your volunteers, what I would say to this person, I would say depending on the volunteers you have left, you just need to paint that picture that, hey, we got to care for these kids. I mean, I
Right.
may, as a job, I may feel called to another church. If you're feeling called to this church, let's rally them around, get them plugged into the church. The other reality is there are other good youth groups in town, and hopefully you're networked.
Hopefully.
And in that setting, if I knew I was going to leave and the church didn't care about youth ministry, they just wanted to entertain church kids, I would call Josh down the street and say, hey, I've got 15 kids that can we do a pizza bash? And I want to introduce you all of them, and they need to be connected into the life of a church, and the church I'm leaving doesn't appear to want them. I know you have a little bit more of an evangelism bent, and some of these kids are Christians, some aren't, but I'd love to get them plugged into your church.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, and then you kill two birds with one stone. You get those kids out of the church that doesn't want them, so the church is happy, and you get those kids cared for. Really, though, I mean, wouldn't you answer this in the first chapter of PDYM with the lady who is all fellowship and the guy who is all evangelism and how they're
it's the second
competing?
chapter.
Second chapter, thank you. Like, that was a groundbreaking moment for me to go, oh, I understand why there's so much tension in the church, because we're not balancing the purposes.
Yeah.
We're skewed. So no wonder this lady's so ticked at our youth ministry. And no wonder this guy is so ticked at our youth ministry for very different reasons.
Yeah.
This guy's evangelistic, and she just wants a Christian discipleship club. So, yeah, either you got to stay there and cast the vision for a healthy youth ministry, and this is what it looks like, balancing the five purposes, or you got to go and start somewhere else and trust the sovereignty of God with those kids and with that. And that church isn't evil and bad, but they maybe don't get it quite right, and maybe God has them doing that because that's what He wants them to do.
Yeah.
But He doesn't. It's not what He wants you to do.
Yeah.
Confusing for those kids, for sure. Of just.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he feels it a lot deeper than they do.
Sure, and which he probably does.
And he's
They,
probably, like you said, he's
for
protecting
sure.
them
He's
from-
probably
from
shielding them.
That was a
but-
question about weed?
No, that was
That's the next
that was
I
that.
was going to say, I was waiting for the weed part. I was like, this is going to be great. Oh, he's not
And,
doing weed
yeah,
to cope with his
they're all
feelings.
smoking
This is
weed
Taylor
together
Murray.
to bring in more
Taylor Murray.
kids.
Let's see where Taylor
Oh,
is.
Tay-Tay.
Taylor's Rewind. I don't know if we have his picture up. Do we have his picture?
I don't know.
Josh, see if you can find it.
This one doesn't have a name, so I'm going to say that's Taylor. The other ones all have
I don't know
names.
why it doesn't have a name.
What's up, Taylor?
You have to
Taylor,
do
if we're
everything,
not
that's
up
why.
here, we need your photo.
Is this wall creepy? Because it has a bunch of photos on it. And
Oh, man.
Jeff Stewart, I'm so sorry.
Here he
Don't
is.
apologize.
Can I send Jeff Stewart a present
You
from
don't-
Andy?
You don't need to
He
do
told me
that.
to hear that. I'll forgive it.
oh, he's
Oh, that's
listening. Oh,
That's good.
you are like flushed right now, Katie.
I know, because I'm sad
he's
that
right
I
there.
offended
Just look
someone.
right in and just
He already
say,
forgave me. I don't have to say sorry ever
Well,
again for that.
We're Christians. We don't really forget.
Here's what Tyler from Maple Valley says. He says, I am the youth pastor at a church outside Seattle. I've been on staff for about 5 months, but volunteered as a youth pastor for just under a year before that. We've been growing a lot, and because of that, we've had a lot of unchurched students come, which is great. Many of them have accepted Christ. It just so happens that some of these new kids smoke weed.
Seattle.
I knew that some had tried it, but I didn't know the extent of the problem in our area. Last week I received a call from a parent of one of our regular students who found some weed in her son's room. Turns out he made the exchange at our youth service
Oh.
with another one of our students.
That's awesome.
I sat down and talked with him and his parents, and it turns out a lot of this is going on, way more than I knew about, including some of our student leaders. My question is, how do I deal with this in a way that seeks to help bring these students out of it? I don't want any of them to leave and be bitter, but I also want them to continue on thinking that I don't want them to think they can keep getting away with it and bring others down.
Well, you tape off a special area of your youth room, you hang up a sign that says "Weed Exchange."
Are you addicted? First, you ask that. If you can't live without it, you set them aside and let them
Yeah.
smoke weed.
There's a
And you
church.
just let it-
There's
you
a
have a
church in
special area.
Amsterdam that sells soft drugs, legal drugs that are legal over there. I mean, I don't know if they're still doing
Which
it,
is
but
everything.
that was one of their ministries that they thought people are going to buy it anywhere. Why not let them buy it at the church?
Ladies and gentlemen, we just took what's known as a tangent.
That's not sort of even. That's kind of related
Well,
to
weed,
this.
yeah, there's a connection. With
Drugs
weed.
and drugs.
But let's
That's
let's
a
help.
soft drug.
Let's help Tyler.
from Amsterdam.
Because
You
that's
can't.
not going to happen. He's not going to.
You can't have kids dealing weed at your youth.
Okay,
home.
and let's Tyler.
Absolutely
That's happened
not.
in ours.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
that's happened in ours. When we were in the portable buildings, I remember when
The ditch down there,
the
remember?
ditch, yeah, kids were going down to the ditch and
Crackdown.
crack down. They were selling crack down by the ditch.
Wow.
No, it was just weed.
So anyway, you're not alone. You're not the first youth group
Yeah.
in the world that's happened with. I think the first thing, you pull that student leader aside
Yeah.
and you address that
For
situation,
sure.
and I think you remove them from student leadership for a season and
Yeah.
help them get their act together. But here's the reality. It goes back to what you were saying about the PDYM thing, and then you guys chime in. When we reach, kids are not going to change their behavior until their heart's been changed. So when kids are, when kids trust Christ, they need to learn what does it mean to follow Him, to be a disciple,
Yeah.
and that's part of the discipleship process. Is, I can remember when. Drawing a blank on the kid's name, I can see his face right here. He said to me, "I haven't smoked weed in 2 weeks," and this is a guy who's smoking several times a day.
That's awesome.
Well, for him, that was sanctification. That was God working
Right.
in his life.
Yeah.
And so, we're not going to escape that whole process of, kids struggling with drugs and addiction and things like that. But I think you got to address it.
What was the parent asking when he said the mom found weed? Just
I
what
don't
are you
think the
doing
parent was
about this?
asking anything.
Oh,
What goes on in your youth ministry?
Yeah,
My
you
kid-
gotta.
I could see
Yeah.
that. Oh, it makes me.
yeah.
Yeah, you must not be teaching the Bible.
What
Yeah.
kind of security? Do
And
you
we're
have?
assuming
all
he's
that
not.
stuff.
This
would've
guy's
sent
not
them to
smoking
that
weed
acquire
himself,
the
right?
fire.
They were
Whole
acquiring
new
something.
meeting. Acquiring the fire. Munchies. That's how you raise money. You sell chips.
And we're back.
Or you sell the weed
Miguel,
directly
that
yourself.
was
Raise
That
money for
was
your
not
volunteers
funny.
to go to camp. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
by selling munchies to the
Yeah.
kids smoking weed on the
Oh,
side.
Well, hey, let's
This is
let's
not a
go to this
joking
last
matter.
weekend in high school. I'm speaking at Josh's high school ministry, and I basically, in some ways, gave that example. I took the little
Oh.
doll Jesus,
Right.
and I said, some of you take Jesus, and when you come to church, you hang out with Jesus.
Jesus is there,
But
right.
there's other parts of your life, you put them on the shelf. I think you teach about it from up front, you talk about it, some of you come to church and you go smoke weed and you don't see any problem with that because you've taken Jesus and you've categorized him into different parts of your life.
Right.
So you address it from up front in your teaching, you have individual conversations about it, you talk about it in a small group.
Yeah, that's great.
What else?
I
You
think
look
I like
the stoner.
individual
Oh,
conversation.
getting hungry. Don't worry about it.
She's getting the munchies.
Get the
I'm sorry,
munchies.
Katie.
No, that's totally fine.
Right.
I like individual conversations because I feel like it gives you a chance to open up
Reflects
some lines of communication and hey, I know this is happening and
Yeah.
let's talk about what's going on with you and I mean, especially the student leaders, I think that's a great place to start. But I think, any of the kids that are coming to your youth ministry, even if they're on the fringe, I think it's a great way to, just begin a relationship with them.
Yeah, and as a youth worker, you're not going to turn them off because they're not coming to youth group thinking, "Oh, Tyler's going to be okay with me smoking
Totally.
weed."
No,
No,
they
he's
have
gonna
an
be interested,
expectation that
They'll
leaders are
hope.
going to be
They'll have
leaders,
that
I think.
dream. I hope my youth pastor smokes weed.
right. Yeah, I think, I think kids, students have the expectation that we're going to be leaders in their life and speak up and say
still
things,
wonder.
and some of them are looking for that, so I think that's okay.
Katie,
good.
I was fully engaged in your
It's all right.
I'm sorry. Were you talking? I was high.
Roach clips?
I did
was
say
high.
at my last church, so this is 20 years ago, I remember saying to one kid, something, I was teasing, but I said, he says, oh, what are you guys going to do? It was like after youth group or something. We're going to go smoke some weed. Because just the word weed is
The weird weed
great.
is funny,
It's
yeah,
great.
for sure.
Well, he thought I was serious.
Oh
thought,
gosh.
Oh my
I thought
goodness.
in the world that we live in,
There's no way.
in the world that
Yeah.
we would, but he thought, that is so weird.
So you had an elder calling you later that night?
Exactly, somebody's mom.
Andy
I
McGill.
just
It was
heard
Matt's
that.
dad called me.
Well, it's very
Andy
real. I mean, we've
McGill.
had kids smoking weed in the bathroom. We've had, as recently as this year, we had a girl who came to a small group 2 or 3 weeks ago now, high and, whatever. So
Not on life.
it's still, not high on life. High on weed.
Tonight I'm going to be high on Harry Potter.
So we're,
I'm so excited
Okay.
for that.
We've just we
Yeah.
lost
That's a
Matt.
perfect
we lost
end.
Matt
He
in
like
Amsterdam.
nosedive. You're right. It was like 10 minutes ago.
It's so cold in all the
Katie's
fence.
got to get her go get her child.
Katie was avoiding your shoulder.
I know.
Talking about on
We're
the
not-
air.
Oh,
We're not talking about this.
No, see.
No, 'cause
Oh, the show ended.
it's weird, and I'm weird, and I want people to know my
Love
weirdness.
you guys. Next week, sympodcast@gmail.com. Do we want to do one on Wednesday before Thanksgiving? Do you want to do a little Thanksgiving show?
No.
No.
Can
I
we
can't do it
eat
the next
turkey
week.
while
I'm
we're
gone
doing it?
The week of December.
Can we
I
eat
could do a Tuesday show.
turkey
like December,
burritos while we're
November
doing it?
We could do a Monday show.
I won't be here Monday or Tuesday.
November 30th?
Yeah.
After Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'll probably be here then.
Yeah,
I won't
can
be
do
here
that.
next week.
Let's
where I'm
do
taking
Friday.
off.
We'll
Oh,
watch
okay.
football.
Okay, we can do Friday. Do a little live show.
What if we had our spouses just stand behind us during the whole show?
That'd be awesome.
I was just
Ron.
thinking of Ron.
Yeah, when you
First,
say
I
That
thought
would
it'd
be
fun to
good.
have Ron here when you said football on Friday. And are we done? By the way, we're done.
Yay, see you.
everybody.